This video is going to be a reaction slash film study to the Geno Smith trade to the Las Vegas Raiders for a third round pick in return, which reunites Geno Smith, of course, with former Seattle head coach Pete Carroll. This is going to be, first of all, an interesting pairing for those two, not just from an on-field standpoint in 2025, but also how this trade affects the rest of the Raiders draft and the trickle-down effect on the first round and perhaps the rest of the league. For example, what I mean by that is the Raiders now look like a possible legitimate landing place for a guy like Ashton Jeanty, the running back from Boise State. I thought he was probably going to move past them in the draft and head to like a place like Chicago. Now the Raiders seem, really wide open for their choices at 6, 37, and then now I believe it's 68. They had 2 third-round picks before trading away this one to get Geno Smith. So, full disclosure, I was planning on completing a Geno Smith film study in the offseason already, and most of this film, most of these plays, were already kind of broken down. So I had to re-record a little bit of it Saturday because I gave a considerable amount of coverage this year on my YouTube channel to the Seattle Seahawks for a good reason, with the Mike Macdonald history with the Baltimore Ravens and how interesting that whole defensive scheme is in the first place. So I intended for this video originally to be from that perspective, a Seahawks perspective, but as the video flows through, obviously you'll see that now it's updated, if you will, to the standpoint of Geno Smith moving on at age 34 to Las Vegas and the Seattle Seahawks being left without a quarterback at this point. Consider this part 1, I'll be honest with you. This is not a projection video of how I think Geno Smith will fit in with the Raiders personnel, reuniting with Pete Carroll, or the projected scheme under new offensive coordinator Chip Kelly, who I think last year at Ohio State, I have to give him credit, he clearly went away from some of the things he's done in the past and merged with a new system based upon the strengths of the players that were at Ohio State. I think he'll do the same thing here with Las Vegas and probably look at some of the things that Geno Smith does well. And that's what I'm going to cover in this video, is focusing on the positive things. First, I will talk about or focus on what I would call A-level throws from Geno Smith in 2024. He did have a weird season, first of all. 21 touchdowns, but 15 interceptions. Over 4,000 yards passing, I think 4,260, something like that, and a 70% completion percentage. The offense was very inconsistent in Seattle, with at first a thin and then injury-riddled offensive line. I think Ryan Grubb's play calling over the course of the season did become somewhat predictable and maybe limited, but of course there was a cap there, a ceiling, if you will, because of the offensive line. And that certainly impacted Geno Smith and some of his stats as well. Second element that I want to go through here is one type of throw that Geno Smith excels at, and how I think I can use that concept to show or display his quick recognition and ability to adapt during the play. So let me be specific with that second part. Not his ability to recognize things pre-snap, get him in the right look, the right pass protection or check from a run play to a pass play, or vice versa. What I'm going to describe in element number 2, where I talk about a slot fade that Geno Smith throws, first of all, extremely well, but he also throws like almost 3 different versions of it, depending on the coverage, the way the man coverage works out. It's his ability to adapt during the play. He's got very quick recognition and awareness, if you ask me, even at the NFL level. And then finally, third for this video will be some of his third down hookups with Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was, spectacular in 2024. Excuse me. Finished with 100 catches, I think 6 or 7 touchdowns, 73% catch percentage. And like I said, that fits with Geno Smith anyway. He had a 70% completion percentage. His third year in a row as a full-time starter in Seattle. Of course, the first 2 was 2022 and 2023 under Carroll, before Mike Macdonald took over. During those 2 years under Pete Carroll, Geno Smith put up 50 touchdowns, 20 interceptions, while also throwing for just under 8,000 yards. If he can somehow keep his interceptions at or below 10 in 2025, I think that'll be a success for this team. The 15 he threw last year, I want to be up front. There's at least 3 there, possibly a 4th that I think were quite bad live time, watching them either live or doing film study throughout the 2024 season. I'm not focusing on those in this video. This is going to be focused on the things he does well. And again, this was originally planned to be Seahawks focused. If, as we go through, you would be interested in seeing a part two, focusing on some of the interceptions, but also on how Geno Smith can utilize the tight end and has done so in the past, because that'll obviously be a big element with what he does in Las Vegas with Brock Bowers as the main weapon there. Let's get the film started with some plays that I would consider to be A-level throws by Geno Smith. Have to keep in mind he completed 70% of his passes in 2024, 69% of his passes in 2022. I do have 9 games of film that I tried to cut down here for the original film study that has now turned into one where he's been traded to the Raiders, into 18, 20, or 22 plays. These are intended to show, number one, his accuracy, timing, and ability to adapt during the play with the concept and the timing of the routes in mind. With the offensive line issues that they had there in Seattle that were well documented and that I mentioned earlier, his processing at times had to be at another level because he's navigating the pocket and trying to keep in time in rhythm with the receiver's routes at the same moment, and then also where to attack with coverage awareness. And so I'll talk about that here first. This is a week 4 throw, a back shoulder to DK Metcalf against Carlton Davis III, who had an increasingly fantastic season for the Lions in 2024. So there's the route roughly drawn, the orange line at the top. I'll usually try to keep the targeted route in orange. And you can see that there is a rusher off his left side, and he deposits this perfectly for DK to grab. Back shoulder with Carlton Davis III turning in towards the sideline, meaning he's facing in this direction. His back and his butt is to the sideline, and he's facing towards the middle of the field. So the location of the throw is what I'm trying to call out and point out here for you guys, that when he has a clean throwing platform and consistent timing, rhythm, if you will, that Geno Smith showed the ability to get the ball out to certain guys. His most dangerous receivers, obviously, DK Metcalf and JSN last year, but in a manner such that they can catch the football and possibly get yards after the catch. Additional to that, had multiple plays this year where he had to deal with free rushers or pass rushers getting in his face, in his grill, and try to keep the concept in mind and get the football out to the right guy. So JSN is the targeted receiver here, top side of the screen in the slot. Spot shadow, it's a 3rd and 8 again against the Lions. I've got significant Detroit film from 2024. If anyone's interested in any of that, cover the Ravens and the Lions predominantly. This is a free rush by Kirby Joseph's going to get pretty much right into Geno Smith's face here as he's trying to process this. And I think already he's trying to work this underneath to JSN over the middle. Keep this in mind as well. This is a unique coverage. It's a 2 deep and then 4 under coverage by the Lions. So here's your 4 under umbrella, cover 2, if you will, 4 unders. 4 under, so trying to get pressure by bringing that 11th player, I should say, as the 5th rusher. And in this case, it's Kirby Joseph. Kirby Joseph gets there. Geno Smith has to dodge him or break the tackle, actually, and then set his feet. And you can see what's developed here. This window between these two second-level defenders for the Lions, Geno Smith's been able to get this football out to JSN, get the first down, let it flow through one more time. You can see the free rusher, Kirby Joseph, and then how he's got to navigate that situation, escape the pressure. He's going to get out here, set his feet, and throw this ball between these two defenders here. JSN, reliable guy on 3rd down, had a spectacular 2024 if you're not aware of it, and then able to make the catch to get the first down. Lions like to bring pressure against the Seahawks, and Geno Smith made him pay for it. It's one of his best games of 2024, and he actually really shredded that defense in 2022 as well. It's not like DK and JSN, the only guys that he's got high-level throws to. So I want to illustrate one here. It's a wheel to Kenneth Walker III. Early in the game against the Falcons, Seattle went down there, got a win in Atlanta. This is a wheel against the inside linebacker. You're actually not getting a pick route. Normally, oftentimes I should say, you're getting a pick by the X receiver on this inside linebacker right here, and that's not what's occurring. So you can see the route by DK is going to occupy the safety who is spot shadowed, and then Kenneth Walker III running the wheel. Additional to that, and a common theme that I mentioned in the lead-in, Arnold Ebiketie is getting Geno Smith off his spot, absolutely flying past the right tackle, really slow getting out of his stance, and Geno Smith's got to navigate that and then drop this over the top. Since this safety and the corner have gone with DK Metcalf, he knew pretty much where he was going with the football. All he had to do was escape the blitzing outside linebacker slash D end. Ebiketie put that throw in there, perfectly placed for Kenneth Walker III. A lot of weapons with the Raiders, the main one obviously being Brock Bowers. Geno Smith's a guy I think that's willing to throw the football anywhere. Don't get me wrong. He clearly did utilize DK Metcalf and JSN more often than others. But he's a guy who's willing to go through with the progression. Now, there comes a point in time where you get a matchup situation and you want to get the ball to your big guy. It's going to be Bowers for the Raiders in 2025 and beyond. Here's one last year, and I love this throw. It actually ends up being incomplete. Not blaming DK. It's a back shoulder throw. I think the refs called a DPI on Carlton Davis III here. So they've scored against the Lions, going for it on a 2-point conversion. I'm going to let it flow through live speed at least one time. I love the location of it. When he has a read, understands the coverage. He's a professional quarterback. He's a high-level professional quarterback, a guy who can process those things. If pressure is put on him consistently, like it was in 2024, meaning the offensive line issues for the Raiders mimic or mirror what you saw in Seattle, which is highly unlikely. It was borderline catastrophic in terms of the pass pro, really. Then Geno Smith's efficiency, his ability to make these throws is going to decrease. That's common sense for any quarterback, really, at the NFL or any high level of college football. But there's a number of accurate, timely throws by Geno Smith to multiple receivers in 2024. And what I'm trying to do here is highlight them for you. This one is one of my favorites as well. It's Week 7, late in the second quarter, against the Falcons. And I think Geno Smith is trying to occupy a safety who is off screen up here to our top right position. You'll see him when I go to the end zone, but I wanted you to see to the all-22. I wanted you to see the end zone angle first. So where he's looking, where his helmet is processing first, I think he's just holding a safety there that when we do get to the all-22, you'll see he spot showed, comes back to DK Metcalf, again has to dodge a potential pass rusher, working against the right tackle as well, and then step up in the pocket, throw the football, more agile, more mobile than probably given credit for in most situations. And a guy who's seen a lot of situations, dealt with very inconsistent / porous offensive line in Seattle in 2024, really made worse by injuries, clearly, and was able to get 21 touchdowns out of that situation. The level of difficulty with the Raiders from an O-line standpoint, you wouldn't anticipate it being the same. Same play from the all-22 angle. You got DK down at the bottom side of the screen here. The aforementioned safety that Geno Smith's going to try to hold is that guy to the field. I'll call him the front side safety because there's two receivers here, potentially a third, a tight end into the boundary. And then DK is the solo receiver down to the bottom side. That's DK's route. Again, targeted receivers generally try to spot shadow in orange or a separate color. That safety has been held here by Geno looking to that side initially. You got a couple of route combination up here it's also occupying him. But the point is he can stick these throws in there and do 2 or 3 things at once. Really, all NFL quarterbacks have to be able to do that. Go through the processing, where to throw the football, the read progression, if you will. Navigate the pocket, move around, shift, avoid rushers. And then the third element or third layer to that, there's 4 or 5 more layers, but the third one that I'm mentioning here is, quote, looking off defenders. And I believe that he's looked off, albeit briefly, that front side safety, and then able to stick this throw in there to DK before that safety can arrive. That was a beautiful throw. I think that one put them up 24-7 late in the second quarter. Pretty much sealed their win down in Atlanta. A couple of more that I think are noteworthy if you're a Raiders fan and didn't watch much Seahawks film during the year. Here's an over concept to JSN. Their Week 13 win on the road against the Jets. Fell behind early in that game. In fact, they're trailing 14-0 here late in the fourth quarter. I want to say it's like a minute, 20, minute, 30 left in the first quarter. Excuse me, I misspoke, not the fourth. and it's a play action concept. JSN, look, the inside linebacker for the Jets has done a nice job trying to match this. He's just not able to get to the point where Geno Smith throws this thing. So the guy I'm talking about is here, 44. He's trying to match the route from JSN over the top, and after the play action fake. Oh, by the way, a nose tackle, defensive tackle is able to get there and start to fly right into the field of vision for Geno Smith. Kind of off his base, wrong-footed, if you will, to deliver the football. Perfect location to JSN. Big moment in that fourth quarter whereby Seattle was able to go down and get a score, try to stay close. Leonard Williams was the guy who really changed the tone and tenor of that game. I do have to say that game was in the midst of or in the middle of a 4-game win streak by Seattle where Geno Smith didn't have a statistical contribution that was really noteworthy. It doesn't mean that he didn't throw the football well or make some plays. I just showed you one from their win against the Jets. But he wasn't the sole purpose or sole reason, I should say. And I don't think he's going to be asked to lead the Raiders in 2025 from a quarterback standpoint. They've got a lot of weapons, and they've got assets in the draft. I know they traded away, I think, a third-round pick to acquire him. They won't ask Geno Smith to win games for them, but I think Carroll knows what he's getting, and the offensive staff there knows what they can get accomplished with him, with a professional quarterback with this level of experience. Same throw from the all-22 angle. So there's the route by JSN. Again, it's a play action. You're going to get a blitz off the edge, Chuck Clark, the safety. And then this defensive tackle is initially slanting, like all of them are, to this side. And then he's going to fold. I got a lot of lines there. My apologies. He's going to fold back, almost like a pseudo pick, and then start to get in Geno Smith's field of vision. And Geno throws this football. He understands what's happening down here, essentially a clear out route. So he understands that he can throw that ball there confidently because the corner was covering number one, in this case DK Metcalf. The main threat for the Raiders being a tight end, Bowers, is different than DK Metcalf being the big X. But the Raiders have got an early pick, and this sets them up well at 6 to be able to do whatever the heck they want to do from a draft standpoint, and put Geno Smith in position to have a second weapon besides Brock Bowers to rely on. I want to be real specific when I say adaptability, professional level quarterback, in terms of one particular route concept. So I'm going to utilize the slot fade to try to illustrate that to you guys. The Geno Smith can throw at least 3 different versions of it in terms of ball location, where he's trying to give the receiver or tight end an opportunity to make the play, depending on the coverage. You're oftentimes seeing this against man-to-man, obviously, and the Seahawks in 2024, like so many other teams, gave Geno Smith the opportunity to go to this against empty, oftentimes to the 2 receiver side, out of empty. In this case, it's DK Metcalf week 2. I believe it's week 2. Hopefully I don't have the weeks mislabeled, but targeted receiver on a slot fade go, really, against a version of what I would call sticks coverage by the Patriots. Blown coverage by one of these guys down here, 23 or Gonzalez, and DK Metcalf, makes it look really easy. And so I'm going to utilize this for a couple of reasons, because the Seahawks, are giving Geno Smith a 6th guy in pass pro to give him some time and let him attack. I mentioned it before. He will go up top often and try to punish teams who want to bring pressure and play coverages that I'm not a huge fan of sticks blitz zero, to be honest with you. I don't think it's a tremendously sound coverage, but so many teams use it, and especially in third down situations. Geno Smith's a guy that I think, I like the way he does it. He says, if you're going to play that coverage against us, I'm going to throw deep. I'm going to attack you. He's not scared to do so. In fact, I think he prefers it. Once he sees the coverage, knows the route, he'll attack deep. I don't pretend to know what the Raiders offense did later on in 2024 after dealing with the Ravens, coming into Baltimore and beating the Ravens in week 2. But I know this, Geno Smith, whoever you've got there at receiver, tight end, Geno Smith's going to give them an opportunity to make plays down the field, and the slot fade is one of the most clear examples of that, in that he can throw different versions of it. So this one's against Cleveland, and surprise, surprise, Jim Schwartz, it's man-to-man coverage on a 2nd and 10. Again, it's the number 2 receiver In this case, it's actually not an empty formation because the running back originated into the boundary, but you can see where the throw is on a 2nd and long, giving JSN an opportunity to catch the football to the outside shoulder. So Geno Smith is able to identify the coverage. The ball's already in the air. Pre-snap, he knew the coverage, man. But during the play, he's adjusting what type of throw he gives JSN to try to make this play. So I think he's just looking for a moment to hold that safety off and then give JSN as much space, room as possible in a one-on-one situation. And in this case, great throw by Geno Smith just over the defender's shoulder. It's one of the things that I've noticed when he throws a couple of other routes, not just the slot fade, is he's really adept and trusts his receivers, knows the coverage, a little bit similar to what I mentioned earlier in the first segment of what I called A-level throws. If he knows it's man to the X receiver to the boundary, he's really comfortable floating that ball over the top, like the throw that I showed to JSN against the Jets on a play action over concept to the downside of the screen, the right side of the offense. He does a great job, I think, of throwing this route because he knows the coverage pre-snap and then identifies which type of throw, which angle, how much pace to put on it is needed. Had an outside shoulder throw like this one to JSN over the defender. Of course, the first one to DK was completely wide open. He throws these to different guys, got adaptability. I don't want to overstate this, but this throw concept really suits him, and I think it made it really easy for me to try to explain to people. A couple of more here. This one, again, is DK week 4 against the Lions, and he sees a 5-man rush out of empty, so he knows, hey, it's got to be man. There's no other way for them to get this done. Let's 3 deep, 3 under, and he's going to go up top to DK, who wins quickly against Carlton Davis III. Initially ruled a touchdown, overruled, brought back to the 1 or 1.5 yard line, I think, and then Seattle's able to score. But you can see the type of throw. He sees it now, how wide open, how much DK has won by against Carlton Davis III, and knows, okay, this is somewhat similar to the Patriots throw. Let me just put this out there sharply, get it to him before the safety can converge. And in this case, the safety gets there with just enough time to, upon review, keep DK out of the end zone. Point is, it's a sharper, quicker throw because Metcalf won off the line. I think Pete Carroll knows this. It's got to be one of the reasons why he was willing to give up the pick that he did. Geno can, he's not a scrambler when I say adaptability, but he's someone who can adapt his throw during the play quite well at a high level. The touchdown to interception ratio 2024 obviously doesn't look great. I think things later in the season got worse for the Seahawks offensive line, and his efficiency also dipped in the same regard. This one ends up being incomplete. Different type of throw to JSN. Same exact look as the previous one. That's why I packaged them together, number 1. Number 2, you'll notice out of empty, again, it's the number 2 receiver to the weak side, away from the 3 receiver side, and he's attacking in man with the running back just occupying, holding the inside linebacker. And based upon how Terrion Arnold was with or staying with JSN, he threw this to the back shoulder a little bit too quickly, maybe, in terms of the arrival time for JSN. JSN hadn't turned around and identified that the football was there, an opportunity to make a play. Geno Smith's got quick recognition, not just pre-snap, but also during the play. It's got to be one of the things that Carroll and maybe guys like Tom Brady also recognized. And I have to say, JSN had a fabulous 2024. He's one of my favorite players to watch film of. I think it would benefit if Geno does end up being the starter for the entirety of 2025. It will benefit him to have someone like a JSN to operate with, a high level of efficiency in terms of reliability on third down, which I'll chronicle here in a moment, but also reliable in terms of catching the football, even though a couple of these plays that I've shown you here didn't necessarily reflect that. We've got a third one here that kind of goes along the same lines. It's a wheel, similar to a slot fade in a lot of ways, but it's a 2nd and 1, week 2 against the Patriots. And Geno, again, out of empty, attacking the number 2 receiver or number 2 defender, away from the trips, away from the 3 receiver side. You got to go down as a drop. This isn't a 50-50 ball. I mean, this is a 85-15 ball from where Geno has put it. If the video is choppy when I fast forward or slow down, please let me know. But using a new player here, you can see, I think he does a really good job with his eyes oftentimes of holding guys. It's my assertion here that Geno knows exactly where he was going with his football. Before I pause this here, he was looking down here to the bottom side of the screens, come back to JSN, throwing it over the defender, very similar to that throw against the Browns. Unfortunately, missed opportunity clearly for Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think that the Raiders know what they're getting, and they know that with time, there's a four-man rush on that particular play. Geno Smith's going to know the coverage with a high degree of reliability. He's been around for a long time, been in multiple systems. Pete Carroll knows what he's capable of, not just from a physical standpoint, the throws, the occasional scrambles, or navigating the pocket, but he knows what Geno Smith understands pre-snap and what they can expect of him. I don't think that can be overstated. Look, the 15 interceptions is too high, and there were 2 or 3 throws from about mid-season on that I really objected to. At least one of them. I said, what is Geno throwing to? If you guys are interested and you've watched this long, first of all, thank you. But second of all, let me know. I'm going to go through at least one more segment of plays, not including a couple of the poor throws. I guess I could have done that, but I can do a part 2 here if you wish. The Raiders clearly, from brain trust standpoint, Carroll, Tom Brady, and others, they know what they're getting, and I think they know what Geno Smith's capable of in situations where he has a clean pocket versus things breaking down like a couple of plays I showed you earlier. If you're enjoying the Geno Smith film study video, first of all, thank you. Second of all, please forgive the short digression here or self-promotion, if you will. I'm in the middle of a large-scale project leading up to the draft, essentially a top 100 type board whereby I try to get as much film on as many prospects as possible. Here you have them listed by round on the left-hand side, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I conduct film study videos for those players, cut film, and then try to share it via Google Doc, a shared document like this. If you are interested in the draft or any of my coverage, you have access to this if you're in my Patreon, number 1. Number 2, give me some suggestions on how to share this on social media for a very small cost, like $2, something whereby people could get some enjoyment out of it if they're interested in watching film of players and or reading some of my short descriptions or evaluations like you see here on the document. Again, this is something that's available for people that join my Patreon. Forgive the self-promotion here, but I would like to share this because I would like to either get feedback from this from people, various fan bases, Ravens, Lions, Seahawks, Raiders, whatever, but also find a way, the best way, the most efficient manner to share this with people about a month before the draft so they can enjoy it as well. This final set of plays that I'll go through here for this video will involve exclusively focusing on third down situations where Geno Smith is getting the ball to a playmaker and oftentimes, to be honest with you, trying to navigate pressure in the pocket, sidestep an oncoming pass rusher, and still get the football out on time to maintain possession. If you guys want, I'll go over a second video at some point this week on missed throws / interceptions and or Geno Smith targeting or focusing on the tight end, because I recognize that in this video that I presented to you this evening, I haven't focused on him targeting the tight ends much at all, and that's obviously going to be a big factor for how successful he is and the Raiders' offense is in 2025 with the threat of Brock Bowers. So this first one is a 3rd and 8, week 4 against the Lions. Forgive me if I've got too much film of them in Detroit. This is a bunch set, and so the first route is DK Metcalf, in yellow, essentially operating as a pick or a screen. I did think that Seattle could have done more of that in 2024. So many teams, the Chiefs, the Bills especially, rely on pick, rub, shield concepts to get guys open, and I didn't think those things, I mean, they occur. I'm showing you one right now, but they didn't occur with the regularity that you see with a lot of other offenses. Being Raiders fans, first of all, you're very familiar with Amik Robertson's level of nastiness, but you're also familiar with how often the Kansas City Chiefs utilize pick, rub, or shield concepts. That's one of the things I think Seattle could have done more of, because Geno Smith is a guy, I think, with at the NFL level, just enough arm, just enough mobility, and just enough pure talent that when you combine it with his intelligence, his preparedness, his awareness, and his experience, that all can give you what you need for a winning formula to play quarterback in the NFL in this day and age. Another one against the third down against the Patriots. Week 2, JSN. This is that 2 deep, 4 under coverage that I kind of diagrammed and talked about with the Lions. So I'll pause this here and let you guys see it. There's the 2 deep. Everything in yellow is defenders. JSN is, in orange. And so you see you got guys lined up at the line of scrimmage, like a sticks blitz zero situation. All these guys look like they're going to be blitzing, attacking the quarterback. And in this case, they do not. A lot of them drop out. And Geno Smith, while he's sliding to his left, the bottom side of our screen, knows that he's going to throw the football to JSN. Why? Well, he's got a defensive lineman dropping out here. Maybe it's a hybrid inside linebacker, not sure. But the point is, he's throwing it between the window of 2 droppers. Tight throw, if you ask me. One of my favorite throws of his from this year. JSN, super reliable guy. Like I said, I have shown some drops of his or misconnections with him and Geno Smith, let's put it that way, but had a really fantastic 2024. I think I had prepared a lot of this film before the trade with a new platform where I house or hold all of my film. I had prepped a lot of this, but I didn't realize I was going to be conducting this film study after he had been traded to the Raiders. So if you, as a Raiders fan, have watched this long, first of all, thank you once again. But second of all, let me know if you think this sounds too homerish to me. I think he's a big improvement over what Las Vegas had last year at quarterback, obviously. Is it possible that they still draft a quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft? I don't think so in terms of a guy who could compete with Geno Smith, but it wouldn't surprise me if they got someone later on. In any case, another third down. This is a 3rd and 15 and a quick read by Geno against the Patriots. It's a delayed slant by JSN. That route that's there in orange is actually not accurate here. It's a little bit further down the field for him in terms of the shake nature of it. But once this defender goes with the tight end, he knows where he's going with this football. On a 3rd and 15, quick completion to JSN, almost gets the first down. They converted it on the next play, by the way. Capable of making quick decisions when he understands the coverage, not confused nearly as often as some of the young quarterbacks in the NFL. So you won't have that issue, but Carroll and those guys have signed up for a guy who has just enough arm talent, just enough athleticism, and just enough pure talent to be able to win when all the other situations, all the other factors, elements, intelligence, awareness, and everything comes into play. I think the Seahawks offense was also more predictable in 2024 than maybe I knew during live time, preparing for this video, unbeknownst to me, unaware of that he was going to be traded, I was shocked at how predictable they were, especially on third downs or 2nd and long situations. This is a guy, Geno, who's willing to throw the football wherever the play concept warrants, and I think the more unpredictable you are, the less of a pattern you show offensively. I think it can help him improve by 5 or 7% with his individual performance because he's so willing to just follow the concept. Make the read, 1, 2, 3, and throw the ball to the correct guy. Another third down against the Patriots in week 2, and you got 2 dig routes here. I think I do have these routes drawn up accurately. It's a switch release, essentially. So JSN is the inside receiver, the stack almost. Tyler Lockett is the outside receiver on the line of scrimmage. He's the yellow route. And I think Geno is just a little bit late getting this ball out here. It's incomplete. And this time you've only got a 4-man rush, so you can see underneath droppers 5, 2 DBs, 2 safeties, I should say, back deep. And I think Geno, like I said, with a clean pocket is just a little bit too late getting this ball out here. This could also represent or be used to explain, hey, there's just enough arm talent, strength on the ball generally to get the ball there, but in certain situations where the safety is driving this second dig route, second in-breaking route, whatever the heck you want to call it, and it gets there just too late. So sometimes has just enough arm strength, and in this case against the Patriots in week 2 was just short of getting that ball there. Here he's going to be moved off his spot. A 3rd and 6 against Detroit week 4, and Detroit's showing man. That's Carlton Davis III and Amik Robertson lined up to the bunch. So they're showing man, to this formation whereby you have Alex Anzalone, an inside linebacker, lined up to the tight end, and the Lions did this often with Aaron Glenn as the defensive coordinator. Put the inside linebacker to the boundary and then have him play man-to-man, especially Anzalone, who's got good coverage skills. Well, and then they drop out to a zone, trying to confuse Geno Smith. That, along with him being moved off his spot, gives him some pause. You can see it's Aiden Hutchinson there, spot shadowed, who's moving him off his spot with the running back and an offensive lineman in pass protection responsible for him. And so Geno felt the pressure, slides out of the pocket to the right. Another situation where JSN fits between two defenders, right with you and saying, I don't know who that is. I didn't see a super reliable receiver like that when they came to Baltimore and got the win in week 2. But Geno reminds me of an old school basketball point guard. I hesitate to say Walt Clyde Frazier because he's a Hall of Fame player and Geno clearly is not. But someone who just shows up, does his job, is classy, good at everything, and gets his 17 points, 7 assists, maybe 5 rebounds, 3 steals, and then moves on with his day. That's kind of what Geno Smith reminds me of, although he did have some spectacular performances too in 2024. Last look at a play, this is the same one from the end zone angle, so you'll see Hutchinson driving off the edge here, forcing Geno to escape out to see him have a wonderful year for the Raiders. I'm going to be honest with you, not if they play the Ravens. This is an upgrade for them. What else will they add in the draft? I don't know, and I won't pretend to tell you. My suspicion seeing this is that Geno is the starter in 2025. I recognize that there may be and probably is some analysis out there that is more precise or detailed and has better background information than I'm trying to present. I'm being upfront with you and telling you I didn't have background information about that. My suspicion is that they're going to roll with him in 2025, maybe draft a young quarterback somewhere in the draft to develop and sit behind him for a year or two. He's 34 years old. I don't know that he's very different athletically, from a health standpoint, than he was in 2022 when Pete Carroll had him before. I think the front office there, Carroll, Brady, and those guys know what they're doing. They know what, at this point, this selection to me screams, we know what we're doing at 6, and we know what we're doing thereafter. Not the players, because who knows what other teams' front offices see, but this to me says that the Raiders have this as step 1 to 2 or 3 other things, be it free agency or the draft, or they had another option or their eyes on another quarterback, maybe a Matt Stafford or someone like that, and they weren't able to make that happen. You're welcome to let me know what you think of any of those thoughts that I offered at the end, number 1. Number 2, if you'd like to see a part 2 of him targeting tight ends, the tight end talent is clearly vastly different than he had in Seattle versus what he will have at his disposal in Las Vegas. And then finally, if you think other Raiders fans would be interested in this film study video of Geno Smith, their new potential starting quarterback for 2025, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.